Hi gorgeous, this is episode number 107. You are listening to Hard Sells Podcast. I am your host, Christine Schlonski, and today is Variety Friday, where I am sharing my knowledge, resources, recommendations, or I answer your questions. And today I want to talk about a topic that I call sales depression. And I'm quite sure we all have been there. So before we dive in, make sure you hop on over to christineschlonski.com, find the podcast tab, and there you have all the podcast episodes with the show notes, the transcripts, the links to all the resources, so you can really dive in. So do you know this feeling when you really think you have to pick up the phone, you have to make that call, but something within you is just so reluctant? You feel this pressure inside and it feels icky and you just can't get yourself to make that call. Right? The more you think about it, the more difficult it gets because you have all the chatter in your mind going on. Like the person might not be interested, I don't want to disturb, it's not a good time to call. Whatever it is just an excuse. And the more we think about it, the more difficult we make it. So I remember I had those days back in my corporate world. Well, quite often is maybe exaggerated, but I had them once in a while where I felt I could not call anybody because it felt heavy, it was dreading, and I was just exhausted thinking about it. What could happen if I made the call? Like I could have been rejected, or people could, laugh at me, scream at me, hang up, whatever the scenario was. It was just in my mind. And I call it sales depression. It's like a real depression. It helps you not to move, right? When you are really depressed, and maybe you've been there, maybe you know that feeling where you just feel like you can't handle any situation whatsoever. So, and those days obviously don't help our business, don't help the mission, don't help the message that we have to get it out in the world. And to be really honest, doesn't help the client you want to serve, because if your message doesn't get out there, well, that's not a good sign. So the month of August, I want to really dedicate to the topic rejection. And sales depression is part of rejection. It's not the actual rejection by a customer. It starts before that step because we don't even pick up the phone. We don't even make that connection call, or we don't even go to the networking meeting. So we miss out on all of the fun and exciting stuff because in our heads we play the worst case scenario. So I've seen so many people, and as I said, I've been there myself, that once you have those days where you can't move, there's nothing going to happen. And, if you have one of those days, that's okay. But for some people, one of those days follows another one and another one and another one. And all of a sudden, it's a week or 2 weeks or a month or 2 months or maybe even more, which is really scary because you don't get any new clients into your business if you don't talk to anybody. And we all know no money, no business, right? Then it's maybe a hobby or we give some advice. And what also happens during that time is that our confidence level really, really goes down. The best moment to have a client's conversation is when somebody just said yes, not only to themselves, but to you as their mentor, their coach, or the person providing the service or the product. When you are energetically at this level, that is the best time to actually win a new client, to make another invitation to someone. So the biggest question has always been, how do I get out of this funk? What can I do so that I feel good inside, because I'm so afraid of picking up the phone or making the appointment for the meeting because I don't feel good. I feel not confident enough. So what has always helped is, first of all, that you really admit that you are in this situation, that you are suffering from sales depression. It's like a real depression, just, only when it comes to your business, where you block everything off and everyone so that you can be with yourself and that you can just maybe sit silently at your PC to create something, but you're not really willing to go out and to sell or to make invitations to your potential customers. So the very first step is obviously noticing what is going on inside of you. And, it's easy to say, well, it's just one of those days. Tomorrow's going to be better. And I'm going to go and call people tomorrow. Or I have to move this appointment because I don't feel good enough. And this is really a dangerous situation because it will attract more of these, well, I call them excuses. Because if you can talk from your heart, if you can really be passionate and excited about what you do, then you would not want to stop yourself from making offers. You would want to be there for your potential clients because they are suffering. Right? You are suffering from sales depression because you don't dare to call, because you don't feel good, but they might have a really, really, difficult challenge they can only solve with your support. So the first thing is, as I said, notice what's going on. And then the second thing is get really, really clear. Is it the value you are offering? Is there enough value what you offer to the world? And if it's not, maybe you need to repackage or reprice or restructure your services or products to make sure that you always deliver so much more than you are asking for as, the investment, the price. So that's one step, the next step. And then, once you know or you admit it, that it's for you the what I call sales depression, your client is still suffering or your potential client is still suffering. So what is it for them? Put yourself in their shoes and really think, like, if you don't show up, well, first of all, somebody else could be showing up and they might not be as heart-centered as you are. They might not care as deeply as you care. They might not provide that amazing value that you usually provide. So there's already a gap in the delivery, but since you're not showing up, well, they have to solve their pain, so they're going with the next best solution. So once you're clear about that, what is the value you offer? I hope that you feel already stronger inside. And then something I used to kind of, trick myself into was that I created a little kind of challenge for myself to pick up the phone. Because once you pick up the phone and you have a good call, it changes your whole energy and your whole outlook on having those conversations. So the key is to keep going, to keep moving until you have this amazing conversation. And you will catch on to this. You will hear it on the phone. You will hear the voice, right? Sometimes clients are, they feel like they're a sponge. They observe every single word you say. They agree. You can feel that they are in alignment and that everything you say resonates. And that's basically those clients you want to invite in. So once you have these conversations where everything you say resonates with your potential client, where you can feel the excitement, where they have questions, where they're really genuine in figuring out if they could actually work with you, that is the time when you can make an offer, when you can make an invitation, and where you can present your product or service. But to get to the point, you have to overcome your sales depression. And with the very first client that has the slightest interest in whatever you offer, I can promise you that your depression gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it's gone, right? I had that so often when I still, made like tens of calls a day, like 30, 40, sometimes 50 or more cold calls, reaching out to general managers, owners of companies, CEOs to offer the high ticket events that I used to sell. And, you really had to make those efforts. But once I had somebody on the phone and they shown the slightest interest, I started to have a really good conversation. And since I always come from the place where I really want to be heart-centered, speaking from my heart, sending love to my potential client even before I know more about them, it changes the whole dynamic. And all of a sudden you have a wonderful, fun conversation instead of a sales conversation. And then when you find out that the person is a match, you can even make an offer. But even if you don't make an offer, if you just have a good conversation, it really helps you to get out of that funk and to have fun, to function like a regular human being who loves to have a conversation about the things they are passionate about. So just consider that when you feel like you can't call anybody and you're getting into that kind of sales depression, or you might be in it right now, draw a sand in the line. You're not supporting your potential client by not showing up. Somebody else will grab that opportunity and they're probably not as good as you are. They probably don't have the experience you have. They're probably not that kind of person that you are. They don't have the mix. So you want to make sure that if you believe in what you do and you know you're really amazing, that you offer your services to the world, that you send out your message to as many people as you can, because only when you allow yourself to touch them, to support them, to show up for them, no matter how you feel, that's when the magic happens. Because, if you put yourself in their shoes, you want somebody to show up for you. So you need to show up for your clients. You need to show them that you care. And, obviously it needs to be true. If you don't care, well, then don't pretend you care. They figure it out anyway. But if you really, really care, you also need to show up for them. And the good thing is, once you start serving, once you start putting yourself in their shoes and you show up for them, your sales depression will just go away. So I really hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments or topics you would love for me to talk about, just send me an email to info@christineschlonski.com and I'd be happy to get back to you. If you have not yet, download the anniversary issue. It's a 100 first episodes of Hard Sells, including the titles, the names of the guests, and the 3 key points, which you can actually take as either a learning tool or you can take it as a tool to really look up the podcast episode that might give you the best information the time you need it most. You will find that as well at christineschlonski.com under the podcast tab. All you need to do is sign in and download your personal copy, and then you have the tool in your hand. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in this world, and I'm saying bye for now.